Horne's Pavilion was the most photographed building of the railroad era. It sat over the beach at the end of Rehoboth Avenue and was, without a doubt, the focal point of boardwalk activity. This colorized and enhanced photo from 1911 may be the most animated. But backing up just 5 years to 1907, there is a black and white picture postcard of the structure that was used as the model for signage and character on the diorama. I had other ideas for this video, number 7, but as it turns out, I picked up table number 3, Diorama's beach scene, last week, and there was no way I could not focus on horns. Here's a picture of the diorama model. Before I proceed to talk about Horne's Pavilion, I'd like to take a moment to remember Anne Lynch Dyer, who passed away last week at 89 years old. I had the opportunity to speak with her last summer. Anne was born in Rehoboth and spent her entire life in our town. She has a fascinating oral history interview on file at the Rehoboth Beach Museum. She wrote several books and pamphlets that included great perspectives about life during Rehoboth's railroad era. And here's a picture of her in the early 1930s on her pony in front of her grandparents' store, Pettijohn's. Pettijohn's store will be modeled when the third block of Rehoboth Avenue is created for the diorama. Rehoboth's Boardwalk Pavilion has a history that precedes its recreation as Horne's. Horne was not actually given a lease for the structure until 1899. Here's a picture of the pavilion as it existed in the mid-1890s. Known then as the Beebe Brothers Pavilion, one of its uses was as Rehoboth's first polling place. In 1898, the commissioners considered moving the structure because of its state of repair and its vulnerability. Perhaps the railroad would take it. But no, they preferred to build their own excursion house, which is already modeled next to the station on Rehoboth Avenue. While touring the Pennsylvania Railroad retirement home on the north end of the boardwalk, I happened across this commemorative ashtray with an image of the Boardwalk Pavilion. It must have been just prior to the licensing of the facility to Horne, but clearly the pavilion was already iconic. And I could not pass up showing you this circa 1898 picture of the structure. The signs behind the ox-drawn cart promote notions, ice cream, water, and Coca-Cola, among other things. Charles Solomon Horne, pictured here with his wife Anna Ritchie, leased the pavilion in 1899. Charles was the son of a carriage builder from Wilmington that sometimes brought his carriages south toward the beach in an effort to sell them. The story is that Charles's father went bankrupt trying to extend his carriage business too long into the Model T car era. Charles Horne first secured a lease for the pavilion from the city commissioners in 1899. And with permission, he expanded the pavilion more than once after that. There was a major expansion in 1903, at which time he renewed the lease for 15 years, starting at $140 per year. That expansion included the addition of a 150-foot pier. Recharacterized as Horne's, the pavilion did indeed grow in notoriety. A page from a brochure that was put together to promote Rehoboth in 1905 describes the structure as the store that makes Rehoboth famous. Here's a 1905 picture of the location with an ox-drawn carriage in front. By the way, that wagon and oxen team are being recreated in N scale for the diorama. Here's a preview. Just a few short years after the photo with the ox cart is a 1913 photo of Horn's Pavilion, still the center of attention, but this time with numerous Model T cars parked in front. There were a lot of things going on at the Pavilion. It included, of course, the fishing pier, and there were amusements on the enlarged boardwalk platform, including the merry-go-round. The main building included a soda fountain, drugstore, photography studio, souvenir shop, and a large hall that was used for dancing, bowling, roller skating, as a theater for city meetings and general business meetings. There was an open deck over the boardwalk in front that looked back across the grassy oval to the train station. And of course, there was the ice cream parlor. I wanted to keep this picture zoomed out to give a more comprehensive view of the structure. But if you look carefully, you can see the big ice cream sign at the center of the Horns complex, well positioned to attract folks to the beach, attract folks on the beach. Here is the ice cream parlor as created for the diorama. You might find it interesting that Nettie Tappan was employed at that ice cream parlor when she met, fell in love with, and later married William Horn, Charles's son. That, too, is another story to be told. Nettie and Bill's daughter, Till Purnell, spent much of her life living in or visiting Rehoboth. She lives in Virginia now, and I am told is thoroughly enjoying this series of videos. She will be 100 years old in 2021. This is a good time to mention that Horn's Pavilion is sponsored by Till's daughter, Alice Cannon. Alice has dedicated this structure to her beloved grandfather, Harold W.T. Purnell. I thought you would appreciate seeing a couple of interior photos of Horns that I have come across. This one is of the soda fountain, quite the ornately decorated place, a hallmark of Charles Horn's facilities. In case you figured Rehoboth was just a quiet little town, here's a circa 1912 photo of an ongoing dance at Horn's Pavilion in the ballroom. Charles Horn had grand intentions. He incorporated the Rehoboth Pier and Improvement Company, made legal by a certificate issued from the state of Delaware on July 19, 1904. In the Articles of Incorporation, Charles Horn stated his intentions for the corporation. He was to erect and construct and build and maintain a pier or piers to land and dock steamships and sailing ships of all sorts, and for the amusement and entertainment of the public. The corporation was also to be permitted to acquire lands in the town of Rehoboth for the purpose of building and maintaining a hotel and innkeeper business. In addition to that, the corporation was to build and carry on an electric light business, to lay the cables, to generate, distribute, and supply electricity to light and heat cities and towns, streets, docks, markets, theaters, buildings, and places public and private. And the statutes went on to give Horn the rights to issue stock and finance those businesses. In the end, he did not quite live up to those intentions, and eventually he would even default on his lease payments. And as we already know, the beautiful Horns Pavilion was lost to the sea 9 years later in the storm of 1914. Here is a picture of Horns after the storm separated it from the boardwalk. It was also after that storm that, in a controversial move, the city abandoned Surf Avenue and the boardwalk was positioned at Storefront, where we see it today 114 years later. And here's a picture of what is at the Horns Pavilion location now. Reflect on this for a moment. Ever recurring from disastrous business endeavors, Charles Horn, working with his partner William Tremper Tappan, would resurrect his business activities after the 1914 storm by taking over the Royal Roller Rink, Casino Theater, later renamed the Blue Hen, and a row of retail storefronts along Ocean Block of Rehoboth Avenue. Here is the only picture I have that includes both the pavilion over the beach and the building group that was taken over by Horn after 1916. But the story of that building group is saved for another day. I leave you with an overfly of Rehoboth Avenue's Ocean Block as depicted on the diorama. There are only 2 building locations left to complete.